Okay, while we wait, I'm going to ask a weird question. Is a hot dog a sandwich?
Yes.
Yes.
Oh, you guys are going to have to elaborate.
A pizza is a vegetable.
I mean, are you talking about a traditional hot dog bun combination, not the actual hot dog itself, but the entire
The entire hot dog, bread, meat, everything. Is that a sandwich?
Yeah.
Sure.
A hot
Yeah.
dog is not a sandwich.
What would it be?
It's just a hot dog.
I have a friend who doesn't eat meat, but she'll eat a hot dog because she said it's not meat.
Well, unfortunately, it's not.
We had a
What prompted this question, Monica?
We had a heated discussion about this at our We Help meeting last week, and apparently people have very strong feelings about the status of the hot dog.
See,
I wanted to get conversation flowing so that we aren't afraid to speak up before we start talking. It's 10 o'clock. Do we want to go ahead and get started?
I'd like to.
Welcome, everyone. Thank you guys so much for coming to meet CEO. Oh, there it is. Something was working in my background. It's so good to see you all. So we're going to get started. I'm going to throw it over to Jennifer Yeagley, our CEO, and she's going to take it from here.
Hello, everyone. I'm so happy to see you all, hear from you, see your photos on the screen. Regarding the hot dog question, you know, Monica and I discussed this a couple of weeks ago, and I actually threw it out to a group that I was talking to a couple of weeks ago and asked people to, you know, share their opinion and defend their position. And so as you can imagine, with the defend the position question, we did get some very strong opinions. It was fascinating. So anyway, so thank you for your insight on that. I'm Jen Yeagley. I'm the CEO of the Free Clinic. I have been here for just over a year, so I don't think I'm allowed to say new anymore. But before we get into, I'm really interested in meeting all of you, those of you who maybe I've met or haven't met. So we're going to do a round of introductions. Before we do that, I want to remind everyone we are recording. So I want to make sure that's okay with everyone. If it is not, just drop a little something in the chat or raise your hand and we can deal with that. And then before we get started, I do want to introduce our board chair, Janet Adams, who's with us this morning. She's also a We Help volunteer. So Janet, maybe we'll just kick off introductions with you, introducing yourself, and then I will call on folks and we'll go around.
well, good morning, everybody, and thank you so much for joining us. We wanted to take this opportunity because we think so many of you haven't had the opportunity to meet Jen, because I'll still call her almost new, and especially since she started 2 weeks before the pandemic, a lot of us just haven't had the chance to bump into people and have some chance to talk. You can imagine coming into any new job is always a challenge, but coming into a new job as a CEO 2 weeks before pandemic hits, that deals with our population that is most in trouble when a pandemic hits, has been an incredible challenge. And I think that you have all seen from your volunteer positions that Jen and the entire staff and all of you have done an unbelievable job serving our community in this very, very most difficult time. And we want to thank you for that. And that's another reason we want to spend some time talking now, so everybody can talk about your own experiences at the Free Clinic and talk about some of the things that we hope to do as we go forward. So thank you for being on, and I look forward to our conversation.
Thanks so much, Janet. And I'm just going to go around the Zoom room and call on you so that we have some organization to the intros. But if you could just, you know, give us your name and let us know how long you've been volunteering with We Help, that would be great. And then I will also go down. I see folks who are on audio but not video, and so I'm going to make sure to try my best to call on everyone. If I miss you, you know, we won't miss you. We'll be sure to get to you. And then we'll introduce the staff as well. I do invite you to turn on your video if you'd like. And with that, Rita, if you could introduce yourself.
I'm Rita. I am a native St. Petersburger, and I've been volunteering. I started in 2019, and then when COVID came along, because I was one of the older volunteers, we were kind of discouraged from being on site. I did work for the census for a little while in 2020. And so that kind of took me away from it too. But I'm back on Monday mornings in the pantry passing out vegetables. So that's what I do.
Well, thank you, Rita. How about Susan?
I am a native St. Petersburgite as well. I've been volunteering, I don't know, somewhere between 10 and 15 years. I was also sent home last spring by Monica. But over the summer, I helped out in the warehouse, which was great. But for the last year, I've been monitoring my grandson at my home while he did virtual school. But Monday, Monica, he goes back to school. So Thursday mornings, if you can find something for me to do, please. It has to start at 9 o'clock in the morning because I have to get him to the bus stop still. But I am excited to come back. I have just missed this so much. And I'm excited to see what you all have to show me that I haven't seen in the last year. So thanks.
Yay, and she's being modest. She also helped with data entry, which is a huge deal.
I did, but I got fired from that too, I think. Oh, there was no response on the other end. So. That was cool though. I really enjoyed, that. And I was just amazed at how many people you all get through there every day with just wonderful food. Thanks.
Thank you so much, Susan. Thank you. Barb?
I am Barb Horn. I've only been volunteering for a few weeks now in the food pantry on Monday mornings. I work with Rita packing vegetables. And I signed on today so I could learn more about the organization. I've been impressed so far with the things that I've seen.
Wonderful.
I've enjoyed it.
Thank you so much.
Good morning.
Oh, good morning. Good morning. We're just going around doing intros and I'm just calling on folks as I see them. So would you like to, I think it's Tony who just jumped in. Would you like to introduce yourself?
Well, this is Tony and Rosie. Before COVID, we were about 6 years volunteering there, but we worked in We Help. And we've been off since COVID started.
Well, thank you so much for joining today. Thank you. Amy, would you like to introduce yourself? Thank you so much.
Yes, hi, good morning, everyone. I'm Amy Walsh, and I've been volunteering in the pantry for about 3 years. And it was interesting because I was there when it just switched over to choice and how exciting that was, and how like every week we would kind of switch the process because we would approve it and so forth. And then of course COVID, but I've been back on the line outside for several months now, and just really, it's just a great experience. Working with my fellow volunteers and the staff, and just, of course, helping the clients. So yeah, about 3 years, and I personally get a lot out of it.
Thank you so much, Amy.
Mm-hmm.
Christine.
Hi. I had worked with the food pantry for about 3 years when the pandemic struck. And because of my age, they requested that I not come in during that time. And then in September, I moved to Charlotte. So I'm no longer volunteering down at the free clinic. However, the free clinic is near and dear to my heart and always will be. And I just want to see what's going on.
Well, thank you so much for joining and for your continued support. We're so happy that we're still in your heart and mind, even though you've moved. So thank you. I'm Victoria. You're on mute.
So excited, I forgot to unmute. My name is Victoria Rexer. Good morning, everyone. And officially, hello, Jennifer. I am a fairly new volunteer. I joined at the onset of the pandemic and watched We Help go from, just trying to figure out what it was to turning into this incredibly well-oiled machine outside. And I have been so inspired by the energy of the staff and my fellow volunteers. And I just couldn't imagine not volunteering there. You have a wonderful way of giving us all meaningful work so that we're hooked. So bravo to you guys. And I'm originally from Huntington, New York, and came to St. Pete about 2 years ago now, by way of Chicago, actually, where I most previously lived. Happy to be here. Warm, palm trees, all the rest. Real good.
Thank you so much. Thank you. Adam.
Adam Presley. I work at the drive-through. Started in October, I think it was. Retired bachelor, so you're not going to see my face this morning. It's kind of scruffy. And I'm a specialist in lifting heavy things.
Wonderful. Well, thank you. And Andrew?
Okay, well, my name is Andy Cordy, and I worked with Rita last year at the U.S. Census Bureau. I'm a relatively new volunteer. I've been maybe a couple months as a volunteer at the drive-through. So thank you very much. I appreciate it.
Oh, wonderful. Thank you for joining us. Rona? Rana, terribly sorry.
Yeah, so yeah, I'm Rana. we moved to St. Pete about 2.5 years ago, and I started volunteering then. And I'm fortunate I've been, since you reopened, I've been back. So seeing how everything's progressed, it's great. It's a great group of people to work with. And Monica and Susan, hats off to you guys. You guys are doing a wonderful job. It's fun to work with you.
Thank you so much. Ruann?
Hi, I started volunteering at the free clinic when I retired in 2018, and I joined just before we switched over to choice. So I got a little taste of the old method and then a taste of the new method, which is wonderful. Since COVID, I worked a little bit at the warehouse. And then, we were asked not to come in if we were of a certain age. And I've since developed health problems that affect my stamina. So I'm not back right now, but I'm hoping to be back in some capacity sometime soon. Miss everybody down there.
Thank you so much. Darlene. Are you with us?
I am with you. Can you hear me?
Yep, we can hear you.
Okay. I am new to St. Pete about a year, and I volunteered I can't stand a lot, so I volunteered to work in the office and help with paperwork processing like IDs and driver's licenses and SNAP documents and things. And I started, and then my husband needed surgery, so I've been home with him ever since. But I hope to get back sometime this summer.
Wonderful. Thank you so much. And I see a phone number, 727-218-8102. Can you tell us who you are if you want to jump in? Okay. Well, feel free to jump in at any point and let us know who you are. And then there is someone named iPad who it looks like maybe in her kitchen.
Yeah, that's me. I'm food prepping, sorry. And it's good entertainment, but my name's Leona Pfeiffer, and I've been I did the inside for about 6 months, and then COVID happened. Then I came back May after we had opened back up, and been there ever since. I love it. I'm out at the food line at the We Help. So I also did a little small stint at the health clinic. I was going to do some nutrition, food prep for diabetics and all that sort of thing, but the time frame didn't work out for me. It was evening. So real happy at the We Help. I'm there every Wednesday.
Wonderful. Thank you so much. Thank you. I think I have gotten to all of our volunteers. If I haven't, could you please speak up, let us know who you are? Okay. I feel like I've gotten good at this Zoom intro thing in terms of who we see on the screen and who we see on the side. We have several staff with us today, and I'd love for them to briefly introduce themselves, because you'll be seeing all of them off and on, as you're in and out of We Help. I know you know Jennifer Silva. Jennifer, if you could just introduce yourself.
Hi, I'm Jennifer Silva. I'm the manager of volunteer services and outreach, and I'm approaching my second year here at the St. Pete Food Clinic. And such an honor to be here with you all today.
And we all know and love Monica, but Monica, if you want to just say hi again.
Hey everyone, I'm so happy that everyone's here. There are some people I haven't seen. So good to see Tony and Rosie. I oversee We Help Services. So thank you all so much for all that you do. It's not us. We could not do what we do without the volunteers. It is all of the hard work and energy that you guys put in, and we super appreciate it and thank you.
Thanks, Monica. Sherry?
I'm Sherry Wysocki. I'm the Director of Donor Engagement at the Free Clinic. It's really good to see all of you today. Some of your faces I haven't seen in a really long time, so it's great to see you on screen. Thank you again for joining us, and thank you for everything you do to make our work possible.
Thanks, Sherry. Cheryl?
Good morning. I'm Cheryl Zeitler. I'm the new Director of Communications. So I'm under a year. I still get to take that new title with everything. Some of you I've probably passed with your masks as you've been working away. And I do want to say thank you for your commitment. It is really inspiring still to see how some of you, choose to stay connected. And I love sharing pictures of you across social media and in our newsletter and things. So, thank you for your commitment. We're glad you're here.
Thank you, Cheryl. The theme a little bit here is going to be new staff now. We've got Eliza with us as well. Eliza, oh, you're on mute. Okay.
Hi, good morning, everybody. I'm Eliza Funzel and Randall, and I'm the Chief Development Officer, and I've been here a little over a month. I worked at the Free Clinic as the Director of Resources almost 20 years ago. So it's really exciting to see how this place has maintained its reputation as being a community gem. And so it's really thanks to volunteers like you who make that possible, as my colleagues have also mentioned. So I'm happy to be here, and I work with a really great team of many, many women and good men, but lots of women, and I love that. So.
Thank you, Eliza. And I think Erin is with us too.
Yes, good morning. I started with the Free Clinic about a year ago as a volunteer, and I wouldn't leave, so they decided to bring me on staff. No, I am kidding, but thank you for that. I've been on staff as an administrative assistant, helping with data entry and anywhere else I can help for just about a little under 3 months now. And it's just a wonderful organization. And it's nice to have this opportunity to connect with so many volunteers that, again, see them in passing and have worked with them on the line. So good things, doing good work.
Thanks, Erin. Thank you. And finally, Jaya, I think, is our final staff member with us.
Good morning, everybody. I am Jaya Wateringham. I'm the executive assistant to Jen Yeagley. I've been here almost 2 years now. I love what we do. This is an amazing organization. My first nonprofit ever. And I'm in awe of everything you all do. We can do it without you. So thank you so much.
Well, thank you again, everyone, for being here. I have what I hope is good information to share with you, an update on what's happening in We Help, an overview of our other programs, and then a little bit of a glimpse of some of the things that we think are ahead. I want this to be really interactive, so please feel free to jump in. I will pause so that you all can, ask questions or react to things that I'm sharing, but please do feel free to jump in. As my staff knows, I can talk forever. So I have to remind myself to pause and to stop and to allow for that reflection. So don't hesitate to interrupt me. First, I want to share a couple of numbers for those of you, and I also just want to say that I noticed that we've got individuals on this call who have been here for decades and those who are very new. And it is so gratifying for me to see that breadth of experience, to know that we are inviting new people into our organization who are joining us and becoming inspired, and that we have, are able to continue working with those of you who have been with us for a long time and want to keep coming back. And that is, it's so humbling and gratifying to see. And so I love that breadth of experience. So those of you who have been with us, for some years, Obviously, you're familiar with our client choice model, which you can see behind me. I put my Zoom background on what We Help used to look like, and it doesn't look like this anymore today because of COVID. And some of you would know us from before the client choice model. But in terms of where we were just over a year ago when We Help, it looked like my Zoom background. We did the client choice model. And on any given day, or a busy day during We Help at that time, was serving about 170 households per day. We were really rocking and rolling when we saw 170 households per day. On average, over the course of the pandemic, beginning about last April, our average number of households served has been 350. So we doubled and had to figure out how to do that very quickly, see many more people. We were seeing an average of 5,500 to 6,500 individuals per month during the client choice days. We are currently still seeing an average of about 20,000 individuals per month in We Help across our various services, but obviously primarily in the food pantry. So we just want to sit with those striking and startling statistics for a minute and reflect on just the doubling and tripling of some of those numbers. In terms of families, pre-COVID, anywhere from 15 to 20% of the households we served any given month included children. Now we've steadily seen over 50% of the households we're serving, including children. So the number of families making their way to us has also starkly increased. And for those of you who are out on the line or who have been out on the line since we've been outdoors during COVID or have joined us recently, you see that in real time. So I just want to speak to a minute about the reasons for that increase. Obviously, we know COVID was the lever for that. We know that almost overnight, our numbers skyrocketed because of the impact of COVID on the individuals and families we serve and also on our community as a whole. But I want to dive into that a little bit and just ask you all, who here knows when I say the Alice population? Staff, don't raise your hand because I talk about this all the time. But among our volunteers, has anybody heard that acronym? It's an acronym. Does anybody know what that is? Okay. So we talk about the Alice population a lot among staff here at the Free Clinic. And what that acronym stands for is asset limited, income constrained, and employed. So that is the new term that the United Way has coined that basically refers to what we used to call the working poor. In the aftermath of the Great Recession, or just in those early days of recovery in 2008 and 2009, the United Way started studying across the nation the impact of the Great Recession on communities that were, or people who were maybe just on the margins before the Great Recession. And then as our economy began to recover, noticed that not everybody was recovering. And so they started studying this population of folks we now call Alice and looking at those trends. And what they learned over the last, decade, a little over a decade, is that the cost of living has increased across the nation in leaps and bounds. As an example, here in our area, the average cost of a one-bedroom apartment in Pinellas County is about $1,200 a month. The cost of groceries has risen year over year just since 2019, pre-COVID, by over 6%. And those are just a couple of examples of just the economic landscape that so many of our families find themselves in. So I want to ask, what percentage of Pinellas County residents pre-COVID do you think were in this Alice population, this working poor, as we used to call it, this group of individuals and families who maybe were just one paycheck away from really experiencing financial distress? Percentage-wise, if you had to guess, pre-COVID, how many folks do you think that may have captured in Pinellas County?
20%.
20%, did I hear? 20, yep. And that's exactly what someone in our previous call ventured. And when I think about it, I think, wow, 20% is a high number, right? Like you think about an entire population. It was 46%. Pre-COVID, according to the United Way, 46% of the Pinellas County population was in this Alice population. And just to give an example of what does that mean? So think about a family of four, two working parents with two children, one in preschool, one in, maybe elementary school, middle, high school, so school-age child. The salary, the income that family has to earn, that family of four, in order to be considered just outside of that Alice population, right? To be what's called Alice survival, meaning they're just barely making it, is $69,000 a year here in Florida. So on paper, that actually looks like that's not so bad. $69,000 is pretty good money. But when the United Way went and analyzed, again, the cost of living against the pace of wages, what they found is that the pace of wages isn't keeping up with the cost of living, and that a family earning, family of four earning 69,000 maybe 15 years ago was doing okay, had some money to save, had some money for emergencies, could afford to buy produce, could afford their rent or their mortgage. And what we're finding is today, that is not the case. Amy, did you want to jump in? I thought I saw a hand. Okay, no. Okay. I do want to be sure you all jump in as you have thoughts. So that was really striking to me when I started digging into these numbers, because I thought, wow, like that seems like we should be doing, families should be doing better than that. But they're just not. And when you think about, I think a lot of times, especially in social services circles, we talk about the federal poverty level, because that's often the level, right, that organizations like ours or our partners in the community are looking at as the indicator for what might trigger our capability to serve someone or to serve a family. Like they're at a certain percentage of the federal poverty level. So the federal poverty level for a family of four is $26,500. Think about the gap between that. So that's where you need to be to essentially be eligible for any range of community services. Think about the gap between that and $69,000, which means a family of four is just barely hanging on and is one paycheck away from crisis. So where we think we have really seen, and based on our surveying of our clients in We Help in particular, a couple of times in this last year, we have seen a significant increase. That increase we've seen in numbers served is that ALICE population. That's a population that prior to COVID probably could have benefited from our services, could have really benefited by coming to We Help and availing themselves, of the food that we offer. But because of the, stigma, and because of maybe feeling like, well, I have a job, I shouldn't go to a food pantry, they didn't come to us. And then what COVID did is it basically forced these families, these individuals, to make that choice because they just could not make ends meet. And so that is where we know we've really seen that expansion. What that also means is that even as we may see a bit of a light at the end of the tunnel with COVID, if vaccines get into wide circulation, maybe the economy comes back a bit or a lot for many, many folks. What we know is the case is for this ALICE population, those who have begun to seek our services, the recovery is going to be extremely slow. And economists are predicting a 5-year horizon before things are at pre-COVID levels around things like food insecurity and other socioeconomic indicators. Food insecurity in Pinellas County pre-COVID was already at 15%, which was quite a bit higher than the 10 to 11% national average in any case. And we don't even have the data yet for how we're measuring or where we are with food insecurity as related to COVID. All we know here in We Help is what we see. What I see when I look out my window and look at all of you working on the line is that we're serving 350 cars a day. So those are some of the numbers that are behind the work that you all know is happening because you are packing those bags and loading those trunks. And I just wanted to sort of offer that so that you had a sense of the statistics and the sense of that growth in population that, again, we don't expect to see the numbers go down back to 170 households a day anytime soon. We have slowed down a bit. We're not exactly sure why that is. We do think that we're going to net out somewhere around maybe serving 250, 270 households a day in We Help once the dust continues to settle from COVID. So we probably won't be at that 350 average, indefinitely, but still 270 households a day up from 170 just a year ago is still a pretty striking increase in need. And so that's kind of what we're preparing for now. And I'll talk a little bit about what that means, but I just want to pause for a minute and, offer you all the chance to ask questions or react to that or share comments.
Wow.
Yeah, I wanted to clarify, were you saying that to be eligible for federal aid? Yeah, what was it, the 26,000 versus the 69,000? Yeah.
Yep, 26,500, and that's just for a family of four. So obviously there are different levels for different, family configurations, and it depends on the service. But in general, for things like Medicaid, right? Like that is the federal poverty level is the number that state-funded organizations, state-funded services begin with that number. And sometimes you can be a little higher than it. You know, there's some wiggle room there, but that is sort of the indicator. And what strikes me about that is that if that's kind of where people can receive services, that's kind of the number around which, right? Like families and people can receive services. It's certainly, the wiggle room does not go up to 69,000. So even with SNAP benefits, which are pretty liberal in terms of who can qualify, it's not a huge, you know, really onerous qualification process, but a family of 4 to qualify for SNAP can only earn as much as $53,000. So there's some good wiggle room there, but there's still not, you know, that is still really a survival level income for a family of 4 in this day and age.
This was a very informative presentation. Thank you. Can you send us a copy?
Yeah.
So that in our conversations with others, we can lay it out in a more concise fashion rather than just saying we deal with people at the bottom of the economic spectrum, and to put the problem in context. It's very helpful.
I would be happy to. I will send, the United Way has a great, like a whole series of reports. And what we'll do is we'll grab the ones that are concise and easy to sort of digest. And we'll send those links straight to, you know, the things that I look at to gather this data is that United Way ALICE information. So we'll pull that together and send that out. Absolutely.
Thank you.
Yep. Other questions? Okay. Well, I want to, I mean, we can come back to this. Oh, yes.
Yeah, I put my hand up with the screen.
I'm so sorry.
No, it's okay. It's all good. So, you know, one of the issues that I'm a St. Pete kid, and, you know, St. Pete, and, you know, people, you know, live very simply here, and cost of living was relatively low until maybe the last 15 years. So as a community partner and a huge voice in the community is the free clinic weighing in on things like affordable housing. You know, I know there was a huge apartment building that was being built right against the interstate just recently, and it was my understanding it was going to be affordable housing, but I went by there the other day and they've renamed it and given it another purpose. Now it's $500,000 apartments. You know, I just feel like, you know, we don't live in there are many affluent people that live here, but the work that is available here for people to do is not work that people make a lot of money. You know, it's a right to work state. So, you know, that's part of the issue. It is a tourist town. It always has been. You know, we don't have manufacturing. We don't have, you know, we do have some, but it's, you know, pretty minor manufacturing. We don't have a big port that, you know, has, you know, big ships coming in, you know, those kind of jobs. We don't have that kind of work. My daughter, who's 28, and fortunately is not parenting right now because that's a big deal to be a parent, but she's works at a preschool, and it's very important work. But preschool teachers do not make very good money. And, you know, I reminded her that she does have access to the free clinic if she's finding it difficult to make ends meet. And pride is part of the reason, you know, she hasn't taken advantage of that yet. But I just think that, you know, affordable housing is a big issue in our community. You know, a decent wage for a day's work is a big issue in our community. I know that FAST is doing a lot of work on trying to get that in front of the city council and the county commission and those organizations. But it's an uphill fight because money is money, and money talks, and people with lots of money, you know, they kind of come in and they look at an apartment building that is housing people affordably, and they buy it and they raise it, and then it's a $500,000 units apartment building. And that's happening more and more. It's every time you turn around, there's another building coming down that was affordable, and what's going up is not. So I think we have a lot of challenges here. And I just hope that everybody's, you know, kind of paying attention to that.
Yeah, I'm just going to jump in on that actually, because one of my questions was going to be about the food deserts. So what is, you know, does a free clinic have a role in advocating to fix, you know, more longer term solutions and so forth?
Yeah, I'm really glad you're asking about advocacy, and I'm happy to share more about that. So we have been building bridges to and reaching out to our local electeds at every level. We have hosted city council members here at the free clinic and have given them eye-opening tours. And the very same information that I just shared with you is exactly what we are sharing with our city council members, our county commissioners, and our state legislative delegation. Last year in April, I had the opportunity to talk with both Senator Brandis and Senator Rouson about what we were seeing on the ground in terms of need. And at that time, unemployment and food were the biggies, like right after COVID started. We knew that a housing crisis was likely looming, and we know that a mental health crisis is still likely looming, I mean, already there. And so based on the conversations that I had with those two senators, we actually pulled together, they asked us to pull together a panel of various nonprofit leaders to speak to what other organizations were seeing so that they could, one, point their constituents in our direction should they need help, but also be informed as they prepared for session, and were weighing in on different legislation. So we did that in April, and then we had a series of convenings with other local nonprofits around issues like affordable housing, where Habitat for Humanity in our local community actually plays a big role in advocacy there. Area Agency on Aging and the CEO there, who plays a big role in advocacy on behalf of seniors with everything around reducing isolation to access to healthcare to affordable housing. And so what we were trying to do was pull together leaders who in their area of expertise, we could be sure to have sort of a united front and a cohesive set of concerns that we could then share with our delegation. So out of those convenings, we pulled together a report that we did then send to the legislative delegation. From there, I was actually invited to go speak to our Pinellas County delegation during those meetings right before session, which I did, and had the opportunity to lay out a series of points and concerns that they have now taken into session with them. And I personally remain in touch with our local elected officials who are now in session because they're looking at bills, one in particular that I'm aware of, which is addressing food insecurity. And so Senator Rouson is sponsoring a bill in the Senate and Representative Rayner in the House on food insecurity as related to urban farming and support for food banks. And so I've been in touch with them, providing them with talking points and information that they have at their disposal. But affordable housing is something that, of course, we also advocate for. We look to those who are perhaps better expert in that than we are to sort of support them, and likewise with other issues. But we are definitely in close and regular touch with all of our officials to make sure that they know what is happening, what we're seeing, and for us to advocate and let them know here's what we can do at the local and state level to make improvements in these issues. In terms of food deserts, so we're working on that. We know where they are. We know another one popped up just north of here. A Winn-Dixie on 4th Avenue just shut down and created another vacuum in terms of access to food. And so one of the things that we're doing, and Monica has been incredibly responsive, Monica and Shayna, to this, is we are trying to work more closely with partners at the neighborhood level to sort of meet them where they are, to determine, what their needs are and how can we best serve them. So we've created a few more specialized partnerships, if you will. We have through our food bank anywhere from 50 to 60 partner organizations to which we distribute food on a regular basis. And so we already have that network where we are reaching into food deserts and getting food there. But we also know we need to broaden that network of partners to expand and to get even more accessible at the neighborhood level. So one example of that, and I'm happy you mentioned preschool and your daughter teaching preschool, Rita, because that's exactly one of the new partnerships we just formed and kicked off back in February. We're now working with the Early Learning Coalition and we're just working with 3 sites right now. It's a pilot project. But what we learned when we were talking with the leaders over there is that while there are a lot of resources in schools, that there is a bit of a vacuum in terms of support for families with young children. And the 0 to 5 population doesn't always have access to fresh, healthy food, nor do their educators who work in their schools. And that was another thing that came up, that those educators also don't make high salaries, and there is often a lot of need among the employees. So the ELC identified 3 sites that we could start with. We're now delivering fresh produce and other food every Friday to these pilot sites and are looking to overlay just some family-friendly education as we go forward. We have to kind of figure that out as we go. But importantly, getting food, to those families and also to the employees at those locations that they can take home with them over the weekend, not just to keep them fed, but to keep them healthy. We're really putting an emphasis on the fresh produce piece. And Monica can share this when she was talking to one of the leaders of one of the schools. The woman was sharing, oh my gosh, do you think we may have oranges? These kids never get to eat oranges. It's such a luxury. And so we don't know if we're going to have oranges, but we do know that we have fresh fruit, fresh vegetables that we can share with these families. And so in those ways, that's one of the ways that we're really trying to dig a little bit deeper at the community level, get more specialized and address the food desert issue, not just from the food distribution angle, but in also finding ways to bridge this fresh, healthy food, concept opportunity, giving people more access, and also to then, how do you prepare it? How do you cut a mango? I wouldn't know. I mean, if I were to get a mango from the free clinic, I would not know how to peel and cut a mango, to share it with my family. And so our health educator is going to help with some of that, and just develop some easy cooking tips and some recipes and things that, as we figure out the best way to reach people through these educational, kind of low key, low barrier educational opportunities, also disseminate that into communities. You all may have seen one of our local councilwomen, Gina Driscoll, launched a crock pot challenge because I made an offhand comment to her when she was visiting a few weeks ago about this very thing. Food is one example of a barrier, but a lot of times families don't even have the things needed to then prepare the food to get it on the table. So the food itself can become a little useless because if you don't know how to cook it or prepare it, or you don't have the things to get it to your table, it's a barrier. And I happen to say, something like a crock pot, which by the way, I don't have and don't know how to use. And I just threw it out. I don't even know if it's a good thing for people to have. But she said a crock pot, we could do a crock pot challenge. If that's an easy thing, let's get people to donate crock pots to the free clinic so you can give those to families to remove that barrier. And so we have now started, crock pots are starting to appear here at the free clinic so that we can then, get those out the door and distribute those to families. So that's one, a very long-winded example of the ways that we're trying to address food deserts, not just in getting food out the door, but helping families consume that food and making sure it doesn't, feel like something that they don't need or want or don't want to eat. We also, to the point about the fresh, healthy food, we have really put an increased emphasis on that. I was looking at the numbers, and 3 years ago, about 56% of what we distributed was fresh produce, fresh protein, fresh dairy, sort of in that healthy range of options. And we are now up to 71% consistently of all the food we distribute being fresh, being healthy food, and a lot of that is produce. So we are really committed to giving the people we, not just cans of high sodium green beans that may introduce calories into their household, but not necessarily support their health. And so that is one of the things that we're very proud of is having that emphasis on that fresh, healthy food.
I'd also like to add in about the living wage that you mentioned. When the pandemic hit and we realized how our staff was stepping up during that time, at long last, we decided at the board that we were going to bring everybody up at the free clinic to a minimum wage of $15 an hour, which we did, and release the compression on everybody else as a result of that, because we feel that our employees are frontline workers, whether they are being called that or not by the government, they are frontline workers, and we wanted to make sure that they were at least beginning to make the living wage. So we did that before we knew whether we would have enough money to cover that. You and a lot of other volunteers have been very generous, and we have been able to cover that financially, and we thought that that was an extremely important thing to do, and we have done that.
We've also been paying hazard pay to our frontline workers on top of, so we did the minimum wage, and then we looked at, how can we make sure that we really are compensating our frontline employees for their choice to continue to show up and to serve the community. And so we have done that now for a year running.